No.
I love you. I love you. I love you. You just technically challenged.
I'm not. I got Wi-Fi now. Can you see me clearly? You see Wi-Fi?
Wait. Come on.
Wi-Fi. See?
Because you got Wi-Fi, you're not technically challenged. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Wi-Fi. See? Wait. Better view. See? You see it? You see the Wi-Fi? You see it?
I see. You killing me. You killing me. Yeah. That further tells me you technically.
I got Wi-Fi. I'm good.
Oh my God. So no.
I'm serious. He got Wi-Fi. He got Wi-Fi.
It's like Medea with Wi-Fi, right?
Hey, so no, you're right, Donald. Man, look, Capitol Hill is like what happened in Capitol Hill, fellas. So I don't have live TV. So when I started hearing what's going on, I was like, wait a minute. So I went on to YouTube and started watching live TV, like on YouTube. Like they start playing stuff live. And here's my question, right? Would y'all have ever thought that would have occurred?
Never. Never. Me and the preacher were actually going back and forth texting and then calling each other as it started progressing. Right? I'm looking at it on my phone and I'm looking at the march, and then I see him getting close to Capitol Hill. I said, no way. So by the time I got in my car and then I gave the preacher a call, he informed me at that particular point that they were breaching Capitol Hill. Like it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
So wait, when did y'all first the first thing I saw was Donald Trump. I saw Trump giving his speech.
Yeah, that's what the first thing I saw. That was the first thing.
I actually saw before that.
What happened before that?
I saw before that actually what Old Soul was saying. What you were just saying, or Old Soul marching down the avenue towards the Capitol. I saw this when they were yelling what they were yelling, and they got to a point where they didn't go up the steps at first. They didn't just go straight up the steps. They stopped because there were maybe actually a few, because now, if you can recall ever being near the Capitol, there's security on the lawn area. Mm-hmm. No security on the lawn area. So of course they continue walking till they get to the steps. And at the highest point of the steps, before you actually go in to the Capitol, there were a few security there. So now words would be going back and forth. They climbing the scaffolding, for the inauguration. So now at this point, more people are going onto the steps. So the people that already at the base of the steps are now going up. So now that's pushing these Capitol Police back towards the door.
So here's my question. Do y'all think Donald Trump incited it?
Okay.
Absolutely. One of the key words he used, well, he told him he was going to march down there with him. Mm-hmm. Okay, that they were going to actually go down there. And basically saying that, the whole thing was his son started. I missed that, and then Giuliani said something to the fact of combat by trial, if I'm not mistaken.
Trial by combat. The statement was, we're going to have a trial by combat.
Trial by combat. So
by the Giuliani said?
Yes. Yeah. And then his son, Don Jr., said, we're going to go down there and we're going to fight. And Trump's exact words is, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. We're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. And that's off of the backdrop of Giuliani and Don Jr.
And he said, fight like hell.
Yeah.
So I posted on my Facebook page, if you go down my timeline, I said, he is inciting a riot. Those are my exact thoughts. The moment, wow. I'm hearing it and I'm seeing it, and then I know you're going to get into it, so I don't want to get too ahead.
No. It's okay to continue, man, because I'm thinking So here's the deal. This here for me, like when I saw it, I'm not surprised because I figured Donald Trump is trying. I didn't even want to talk about Trump, to be honest with you. Like I was done last year, but given the fact of what he did, I was hoping he would not, but he did it. And now some are saying, hey, listen, it's a failed attempt at a coup. And I would agree with that. It was an attempted coup because he was trying to get them to stop and hold power, right? He has now, here's what I feel. He has touted this lie for so long. And he started believing it after the first 2 weeks of touting it, to the point where he started pressing it more and more and more that he has everybody else believing it. And it makes me think, like, am I that? Like, I consider myself an intelligent person. And so I ask myself, how can I not see what these other people are, quote unquote, seeing, right? Because they believe the election was stolen. But how do they, like, why do they believe that? And I guess that's the question I want to ask as we talk about Capitol Hill. Like, why do these people believe this? One thing that comes to mind for me is that because they want to believe it, right? That's the main thing that comes to mind. But I'm curious y'all perspective, because I consider myself to be an intelligent person, but I don't see what they see. What are your thoughts on that?
In heart of hearts, you got to understand that they thought this guy was the political messiah, and their beliefs was his beliefs. He brought all this to the forefront, of what their thoughts that bring America to be great again. Now, and we all can agree, well, at what point in time in history was America actually great? And if we think about that, it never really was great for people of color, So, in that being said, you got 95% of people at the Capitol, DC, white, Caucasians. You got a sprinkle of, unfortunately, black people, and to me, they were, I can't even say misinformed, but misguided, as a black individual, and I didn't see anything other than, there might have been, I didn't see any other cultures except the white and the black.
But why do you think people believe this? Believe that he lost the election? Like, all the evidence that I've seen doesn't state that he's lost the election. I think it was a fair election.
I mean, I totally agree. I wanted something to substantiate his claims, and you heard where, some of the recordings that he did, with the Georgia officials, and everything was disputed. Everything, there was people that supposed to have been, that died, that supposedly had voted. 2. That was the number. Not 20, not 2,000, not 20,000. 2 names were found to have that effect, that they died, but we found their names in the voting process. You know what I'm saying? So, but again, I would believe it if this is the person that I look to consistently. Just like, we had a conversation earlier of actually when Jesus Christ was born. I hear this ever since I could remember, 5 years old, and if not younger, of when Christ was born. The preacher has now given me different facts. Now, I'm 52. I believe that up until this day. So if I'm giving you this consistently every day, every month, the 4 years I'm in office, well, something's going to happen. I'm feeding you this information that something is amiss. There is people in the background that's doing something that's going to take me away from you guys for me to be continue to be the president. Watch what goes on. And if I'm feeding you this, and I'm and Biden's to the left of me, and and I'm keep giving you this information, and lo and behold, this is what happens. I lose the race. And I'm telling you, I lost a race that they saying they took from us. And he always said that. He took it from us. So if I continue to get this on a daily basis, whether I'm tweeting it, whether I'm on TV telling you, and I'm getting to the nuts and bolts of the people, the politicians that's supposed to take care of us as a people.
Also, why do you think people believe in this stuff, man?
I liken 45 almost to like a Jim Jones type character. Back in Guyana, you guys remember, like a cult type figure. And people followed him. People followed the rhetoric. People actually thought what he was saying was on point. And then he made them drink the Kool-Aid, right? And they all died. So you actually look at it, number 45 has them actually drinking the Kool-Aid. So it's actually a cult type figure / like a gang type recruitment. There are things in these people's lives that they feel as though that they need to belong to something, right? So they need to follow this type of figure. And they feel as though whatever this figure says is correct. He can do no wrong. That's a cult, right? That's a cult. That's a demagogue right there. That's a cult. So there's people's lives have voids, right? These people that follow him, they have voids in their life. He fills their void for whatever reason. I don't think, it has something to do with the lack of in their life that they have to follow a figure like this, because whatever he says is the gospel to them, is the absolute gospel. So for me, that's who I liken. I liken him to like Jim Jones. And you see at the end what happened to those people that follow Jim Jones.
Yeah. Oh, so what, you got something to add to that?
I just did.
I'm a preacher. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have a saying: if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. These are the same people that believe that Barack Obama was not born in America. These are the same people that believe Hillary Clinton is the head of a pedophile ring. So you're asking a question with significance, right? How does a people that, if you listen to them, they're disenfranchised. They believe reverse racism. They believe that liberal policies is the reason why they don't have jobs in America. They believe that, was talking to Edwin earlier, West Virginia, coal mining town, went heavily red. In 2016, they voted unanimously for President Trump. The affordable health care was on the ballot. He said that he's going to repeal and replace Obamacare. But yet everyone in West Virginia who was on Obamacare, was 27,000 people that was on Obamacare. They still voted for President Trump because he said that he was going to revoke Obamacare, because they did not know that Obamacare and the affordable health care was the exact same thing. Right. So now you're asking 1, 2, 3, 4 of us, including your own thoughts, to go into the minds of our fellow Americans. The same people, right, that rip families, not this current generation, but generational, rip families from people, right? And if it's 75 million of them. I concur. The Guyana tragedy, the Jim Jones, I concur. He said it himself. He could go out on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and it would be no problem, right? I'm taking it even a step further. For the evangelicals, they consider him to be King Cyrus. They actually believe that the Lord sent him down for them. Now, there was people on the screen that had on shirts that said Blacks for Trump 2020.com. I have photos. So if the left-wing media is only spewing the negative, and the people that the 75 million, they're not watching MSNBC, they're not watching CNN, they're watching Fox News. Now, I am not a dumbass. So I can watch Fox News and not be indoctrinated with that ideology. But when you're gravitating to someone, not minus the 18%, the 20% of the black vote that he got,
Right.
I'm talking about these 75 million people.
Right.
Imagine someone coming to you or anyone on the screen talking to you about President Obama. The same thing. You know why? Because President Obama looked like you and me. They're going to follow him because they look like him, even though he doesn't give a damn about them.
Yeah.
But he used all of this, hundreds of millions of dollars for the Republican Party.
You know,
so don't think.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that. Don't think that this wasn't all part of the plan. It's a fundraising plan. He's going to have his own TV network.
Yeah.
Everything, and if they impeach him or 20, he doesn't care.
Yeah. So let me say this. It's funny you say that. I think, as I had given thought to it, and I want to hear perspectives here. I think there's a combination of sincere ignorance, right? When you talk about 75 million, there's a lot of people who are just sincerely ignorant. Those are the individuals, Frank, they don't know Obamacare is Affordable Care Act, right? Like they're ignorant to the fact that one is the other, and it's serving a purpose to help them. But then there's those who are conscientiously stupid, meaning they know what in the world's going on. Those are the racists, the right wing that, like a Mitch McConnell.
Can you say brainwashed on that fact? Is those people being brainwashed on that, believing what this guy is saying all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could probably say that. It's just, for me, the hard part I'm having is that Donald Trump he went out and caused individuals. Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and Donald Trump Jr., through their rhetoric, caused individuals to go down to the Capitol and storm the Capitol.
And people lost their lives.
And so
five of them.
Five, right? So my question is should Donald be prosecuted? Giuliani and Donald Trump? Like, from my perspective, they incited it. So they should be tried. And my biggest, and we're going to talk about double standards, right? Because had this been a Black Lives Matter issue, right? Protests out there, those steps would have had like guards all across them, right? But they're talking about police officers taking pictures and selfies with the protesters. They said that, and I saw that personally, but they also talked about how some of the police officers were moving the gates out of the way so people could come in.
Wow.
But my big question is Twitter finally shut Trump down because enough was enough. And this was as far as I'm concerned, an attempted coup. Somebody, Nancy Pelosi and other members of the Congress could have potentially got killed because there were pipe bombs that were found. There were guns that were found. But nothing was really done. And I'm fearful, guys, because they're talking about January 17th, potentially something happening. And then who knows what's going to happen on the day of the inauguration for Joe Biden, right? So let's talk about the double standard, though. When we think about, is there a double standard? That's my question for you. Do you think there's a double standard for white people and black people?
Absolutely. There's a double standard just for protests, just the issue of protests alone. Let's just take it back further, and we talked about it on one of our older podcasts. The Pettus Bridge, right? Pettus Bridge, when they marched in Montgomery, they were met with troops. Mm-hmm. If you look throughout history, every march that's been a race of people, Black people, Latino, whatever, has been met with National Guard. You could Google it. You can look back in all the history. You can look back at all the pictures, even up to the current Black Lives Matter. These people were not met with anyone. Nobody. Literally an undermanned police force, right? Which had intel. They had intel that this was going to happen, right? So the chaos they caused at the Capitol, they literally caused it and walked back out.
without no repercussions.
No repercussions, right? You're talking about people that walked in, that got into this building, a place of American democracy, right? And they had Molotov cocktails, pipe bombs. They had what you can consider as twisty ties for handcuffs, because they were ready to go in and handcuff. Thank you, preacher. They also came in with Civil War flags, which goes back to racism in the old down south, right? So, but every picture throughout history that you look at of Black people marching were met with National Guard and troops. They were met with nothing. So to answer your question, there is a complete double standard. Absolutely.
Do y'all think the police were in on it?
They had
I
one
don't
police
think- I don't-
officer from Philly who had took a selfie. That he got in trouble for that. I think he's getting fined for that, or he's under
female.
investigation.
I don't
It's a
think they're
female.
in on it. I just think that they, for some odd reason, I think if they had the intel, you had this whole thing, and the preacher probably piggyback off of this with DC police, Maryland police, Capitol police. Now they want to hand it off to all these different, different police. They had the intel. Why they didn't do anything about it? Why they didn't put out National Guard from the gate? I don't think
So
it was.
that's my question. That's why I was asking.
Conspiracy, though.
That's why I was asking. Do you
Well,
think they were a part of the conspiracy?
I have a couple comments. So in 2013, Miriam Carey, she had a mental issue. She was a Black woman, had a mental issue, drove up on the Capitol, shot and killed her with her kid in the car. Black woman, 2013. I don't have to go back to the.
Was that the black car scenario?
That's the one where the woman had her child in the car. She was having a mental breakdown. They thought she was trying to storm the Capitol building, but they shot and killed her.
Mm-hmm.
So that just speaks clearly to the double standard that you're referring to, because here's a woman that drove her car into those poles, and she was unarmed, and they still shot 7-8 times and killed her while her child. So that's more current in the last 10 years, okay? And I'm gonna tell you why the National Guard wasn't called. I can tell you why the Capitol Police, they're an entity. Capitol Police, they that's what their job is. That is not the mayor's, that's not the mayor's, because DC is not a state.
That's right.
They don't have statehood.
That's
so
right.
the Capitol Police, they have their own entity. The mayor requested the National Guard 3 days prior, but the Department of Defense denied it. And I'm gonna tell you why. So I'm gonna give you two chains of thoughts, and you guys can decide.
So what you're about to tell us is your perspective of why, right?
I'm about to tell you what I heard, and
Okay.
then you can look it up for yourself, and then you can decide how. I provide, you decide how to use the information. So Brian Kilmeade, who is an anchor on the Fox and Friends, he was interviewing a congresswoman. The congresswoman, he's saying there was a harrowing situation. He's interviewing her, and he said, now this is a Fox reporter. He's a Fox News guy, been on Fox and Friends for years. He said, and this is why they didn't call the National Guard. He says, "Are you telling me that you were scared of someone with a MAGA hat on?" He said it in utter disbelief. Like, it's impossible, Congresswoman, that you saw some person with a MAGA hat on and you were fearful for your life. Yes, bitch, I was fearful for my life, nigga. Yes, Brian Kilmeade, I was. Because you're a dumbass for asking that question. But that's their perception. Their perception is that you don't have to be afraid of us because we're not like them. The only thing that this did is shine a light that they are exactly like we are all the same. We're human beings full of emotions. We make decisions that's sometimes not rational. And now here is the opinion that I'm going to provide. Okay. They allowed it to happen. They allowed it. Everyone, because they wanted to prove a point. No matter how reserved we are, I put on my tie. I have on my $500 watch. At the end of the day, there was people who got regular jobs just like us, educated people police officers. The lady who was killed, may she rest in peace, was a 14-year Air Force veteran.
Yeah.
She's trying to climb through the door and she gets shot by a Fed. Now, if she wasn't there, are you telling me that this 14-year veteran of the United States Air Force, where only 10% of the people make it into the military, the Air Force is one of the hardest institutions to get in? Are you telling me, based on your commentary earlier, that she's not bright, that she's not intelligent, that she's not smart? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's a conscious decision they made. They made conscious decisions. And they believed white privilege was on full display. Do what I want. I can go and come as I please. I'm going to walk in here and nothing's going to happen to me because I'm white.
Yeah, so
Double
interesting.
standard.
Interesting you say that. So Baller, you want to add to that?
No, I'm like I actually am in totally agreement with, you know, the preacher, you know, and it's sometimes when you take a step back, it becomes very mind-boggling because there's a lot of I've always been told, if it's not logical, you have to question it, you know, and those scenes and those things that we witnessed ourselves were not logical, you know, because again, it becomes that white privilege. It becomes that white privilege because if we can remember when the Black Lives Matter movement, who was called? Who was called and was standing on those steps? National Guard. Now, the movement was peaceful, but because of what this is, what yours is, what his is, and what his is, that color, we are the generation, not the generation, we are the people of fear. Exactly.
So one of my biggest fears right now, because they're talking about impeaching Trump. Trump's not going to resign. Listen.
No.
He's too much of a narcissist to even consider resigning. But they're talking about doing an impeachment, a double impeachment. This would be a second one. So I do believe it's a double standard, and I'm actually very pissed about it, right? But it talks to the white privilege, because a lot of those individuals were in the Capitol and had really no fear whatsoever. You know, there's a guy chasing a cop up the steps.
Several of them.
Like,
Yeah.
what? Listen,
But
if I was that cop, that guy would have probably been shot. No, I'm just saying.
So
That
here's
would
the
have happened to
question.
us. That would have happened to us.
Here's the question. Here's the difference, right? That picture I showed, right?
Yeah.
The difference here is guns drawn versus guns shot. So here's the thing. What if, this is just me, devil's advocate. I like being on this side of the fence. What if they got the order not to fire? Not to fire. See, we have a weapon. I'm not talking about the Glock that I carry.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that weapon. I'm talking about this pigmentation on my skin. First of all, black people would have never been able to breach the Capitol grounds to walk through there. There's a guy that's had on the shirt, right? It says it's 6.
6, yep.
You see that, right?
Yep.
Those are Trump supporters, right? His son, his son-in-law is Jewish. Yeah. They have shirts that support him that says 6 million wasn't enough. And that's all through, but there's good people on both sides.
And he loves his people.
You think about it, the woman that was in the Air Force that got killed, right? Now, I happened to run this past my son who did a couple years in the Army. And if you're military, you take a sworn oath to defend this country of any enemies, foreign or domestic, right?
And uphold the Constitution.
Law enforcement.
Absolutely. That's Constitution. So in that kind of eyes, she committed treason, right? Against her own country of what she did. Now, I feel bad that somebody lost their lives, but at the end of the day, she shouldn't have had an ass in there.
Yeah. Piggyback on what he just said. What's the word that he just said? Treason.
Treason.
That's treason. Insurrection.
Absolutely.
That's the word. That's the word, Edwin.
Absolutely.
So here's my fear. My fear is that if they don't find Donald Trump guilty of something, he's going to run in another 4 years, and he's going to win.
Right.
That's my big fear, right?
Okay.
Because he's going to build this. He's going to build a radio network, Donald. He's going to build a radio network. He's going to preach. He's going to make his money with the fake news, and then because he loves this power, I think he would run again.
He's
Quite
a populist, so yeah, of course. But here's the thing: 2024, Kamala Harris and Stephanie Abrams on the ticket. First black woman president, first black woman vice president running against. So the ticket would be written for itself: good versus evil. Biden got 80 million. Let's go. I mean, I'm not afraid. Let's go. I've already survived 4 years of Trump. Let's go.
So Biden got 80 million, but a good portion of that is about, I don't know. It's a bunch of white people who voted, right? And
correct. Had to. We're only 14% of the population, so clearly they had to vote for him.
My concern is that if Trump continues to push this rhetoric and it builds more and more of a populace of supporters, that he will try to run again. They need to find him guilty on something. Like what he's done, he needs to be found guilty. And that's my biggest fear. I don't know how they do it. Right now, I think he's not resigning, and Pence is not going to call him the 25th. He's not going to do the 25th Amendment process. I think it's like Article 2 or something like that. I'm not sure which article. Do you know which article it is?
Not off the top of my head, but
for the 25th Amendment.
Yeah,
it's article. I think it's the fourth article from that.
Possibly.
That's the mental instability. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, fourth article.
Okay.
The third article is based on basically the president invoking it on himself, basically going to the vice president. Back when Bush had like a colonoscopy years and years ago, and he had to go under, he invoked it on himself at that point because he was unable for that particular. That's the third article.
Got it.
I have one thing that I'm upset about.
So what is
and that happened on Tuesday. His words were on full display on Tuesday. He should have been brought up on charges on Wednesday, not 5 days later, not 6 days later, not 7 days later, because what happens is the same 75 million that now feel disenfranchised, that you gave them more fodder. This should have been she should have been on the floor saying that he incited this. That should have been the night they voted, they certified the election. That same night, Wednesday morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, when they certified the election, she should have said right there with all the cameras, C-SPAN, everybody watching it, that as soon as I go home and get a couple hours of sleep, I'm coming back and I'm drawing up the papers for his immediate removal forthwith.
So, but wasn't that shared immediately?
It was
immediately. They started talking about the 25th immediately, but it was just talk. They were actually waiting. What it was, they were waiting for the shock value for all of the rest of the Republicans for it to sink in, right? So immediately when the discussion started coming up, they were talking about possibly invoking the 25th Amendment after he threw the vice president under the bus. Okay. So that was a discussion. There was early discussions about the 25th, very, very early preliminary, but impeachment didn't come up until, like the preacher said, until maybe days later.
But again, he's talking about the media. I'm not talking about what was stated in the media. I'm talking about her holding a press conference saying these are the actions that we're taking.
Nancy Pelosi.
That's right. That's correct. Yes. Yes. Along with her right-hand man, Chuck Schumer, along with Adam Schiff, the head of the Intelligence Committee. All three of them should have been making that should have been the beat of the drum.
Well, let's not even say those three. Why don't you just throw Mitch McConnell in there? He should have been there right with him. McConnell should have been right
And
there
and
with
those
him.
100, and I want the names of those 147 people after
vote.
that insurrection. I want the names. Ted Cruz. I
Absolutely.
used to was calling them Ted Cruz and the Gang of Eight, but now I want all 147. And then come 2022, we got the targets, and we go out and we get these people unseated from their positions. We rock the vote in 2022.
So here's the good news of all of this. We won the goddamn Georgia Senate.
Yeah.
That's the good news, right? Like,
Okay.
aside from the Capitol.
Holla for everybody.
Yeah, look. aside from the Capitol situation, we won the Georgia Senate. And so that's going to give Biden an opportunity to really. So I was watching the news and they were talking about Kamala she's going to be in a position where she's going to be making a lot of decisions.
Tiebreakers.
Tiebreakers.
I just have one. Can I have one name? I just want to throw out there for you,
Sure,
and I know you guys. You may not know who he is. Joe Manchin.
What's the name?
Joe Manchin.
What's the name? Something familiar?
Because he is in a He's a Democrat that leans way right, bro.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm telling you, yes, Kamala does have the tiebreaker at the 50-50. But you got to watch out for Joe Manchin.
Where's he out of? Where's he out of?
West Virginia.
That's right.
I'm telling you right now, he voted. I think his record is somewhere between like 67% of the time with Trump.
With the Republicans.
As a Democrat.
Democrat, yeah.
Be careful.
There are some Democrats that have some conservative views. You're absolutely right. That's the worry.
Right. Remember, President Trump is King Cyrus. If you don't know who King Cyrus is, Google it. That's
so interesting. It's interesting you say that. I'm curious to see how a lot of these votes go now that Trump is not in office, right? For people, because we will be coming up with elections again in 2 years. And quite honestly, people are going to be trying to save their asses. I'm glad that Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram shut Trump's ass down.
I have a question, two questions for you.
Yeah.
Did you see what happened to Lindsey Graham walking through the airport?
Oh yeah.
So the very people because of his the very people that helped him get elected are the very people who turned on him. Okay. So that's the first thing.
Wow.
That's the first thing. They
turned on him. The vice president, right?
Yeah, they turned on him as well.
They wanted to
the vice president and they give Mitt Romney a hard time. They gave everybody a hard time who didn't support Trump. Yeah. What was your other question, Donald?
What do you how do you envision Texas going? Since Ted Cruz is in the reddest of red states, and he was he was the main guy here. That was now the state legislation in Pennsylvania. They did alter the laws without legislation approval due to COVID. So what they weren't claiming voter fraud in Pennsylvania. They were saying that the election officials changed the rules for mail-in balloting. That's what the challenge was for Pennsylvania. Not like Georgia with the 11,780. That's not what. No. So Pat Toomey, I don't know if he's the Republican. He's a lame duck as well. He went against Trump. He did he said some really positive things. So the question is, if you were part of that 75 million and you know that the word rigged and you've been brainwashed into believing that, but there is some legitimate concerns, but you never allowed those concerns to be addressed because you created an insurrection. So I'm asking, do you believe that even had there been no insurrection, what do you think the outcome would have been to these the 10-day audit that he was looking for? What do you think?
But were you referring to Texas?
Well, because Ted Cruz is from Texas. So it's a two-part question. I don't think we can unseat him because he's in a completely red state. There's no way to get him out of there. So we got to figure out another way to get him out. But do you think Pennsylvania, who was run by a Republican, Toomey, senator, do you think that had the insurrection not occurred, do you think that it would have been an issue with Pennsylvania?
An issue with Pennsylvania? What? What's the specific question though?
The specific question is, Pennsylvania changed the legislative rules
Right.
to allow more mail-in balloting. That's one of the issues that the Republican Party was arguing about, or was going to argue in front of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying because of the insurrection, they never got a chance to make their claim.
Yep.
So your thoughts on what do you think would have happened had the insurrection not happened? Do you think it would have been heard, or do you think they would have just threw it out?
I'm gonna, so because I live in California, I'm gonna say I think they would have thrown it out, right? Because California did exactly the same thing, mail-in ballots for everyone. So I think they would have thrown it out. With that, though, I want to talk about Texas. I think Texas will someday go blue. Let me tell you why. There are a lot of big companies opening up in Texas, and people are moving over there left and right, high-tech companies. And so, and I think a great majority of them probably fall on the middle to the left, right? And so at some point, I think Texas will eventually go blue in the future. I don't know how long it's going to take, because Tesla's moving out there as well. Like they're a big organization moving out there, but there are a lot of big companies, and ultimately, I think they'll go blue. But to answer your original question, I think it would have been thrown out, Donald, quite honestly, because California did exactly the same thing.
So how do you get that? How do you get that message out to those people that they had a legitimate argument, but 60 courts across the country, 60 courts throughout all of your court cases. Why is that not resonating with the 75 million?
Because they're conscientiously stupid, right? Like, so it goes back to the fact that
we're the brainwashed.
No, it goes back to the fact that they feel that this is their country, and I'm going to speak to the fact that white people feel it's their country, right? Using ballers percentage, 95% of the people probably in that attempted coup were white, and they feel it's their country. They have no fear. They feel like we people of color are taking over, and they have no say in what's happening, and so they're conscientiously making excuses, like they want to believe what Trump is saying, although it's not true. And there's nothing you can do for people who are being conscientiously stupid. And that's what I talked about. There's a part of the populace who are sincerely ignorant, who just for whatever reason, they're listening and they don't know, and they hear other people saying, and they're not doing the research, right? Okay, I'm gonna go in this direction, right? Just like black folk, when President Obama's black, oh, we got a black president, I'm voting for black president, I'm just voting, right? Without any necessarily due diligence, but I'm gonna make history and vote for a black man to be president.
And then they don't vote in the midterms.
And then don't vote in the midterms, right? But to that point, it's conscientious stupidity, and there's nothing you can do to change those people's minds. And that goes back to my original point. I'm glad you brought it up. I consider myself to be an intelligent person. How can they believe this? Conscientious stupidity, right? They just accept it and want it to be. This is what they.
I'm sorry. I just want to add one last thing, and I'll shut up. And the thing I want to add is that about the whataboutisms. They always. Fox News is this is their specialty, right? They always want to talk about how no one stepped up and said anything about this movement, about that movement, BLM and all that. It's a false equivalency, Fox News. It's a false. You cannot equate social injustice to an attempted coup.
No.
Because black folks, you can go Black Lives Matter, you can get every movement that you can ever think of. They are not running up into the Capitol talking about, we want to take over. Mm-hmm. We're not doing that. Mm-hmm. We want you to stop shooting our people. I don't want you to shoot them, but at least stop shooting us. I want the same exact justice, or the leniency, if you will, that you give my Caucasian brothers and sisters, to steal the words from one of the professors from Princeton. That's all I want. It's a false equivalency. Don't keep coming to me with whataboutisms. I'm arguing with people on Facebook. Well, you didn't say, shut the hell up. An attempted coup is not the same as social injustice.
You want our lives to matter just as much as theirs.
Point blank, period.
So listen, fellas, here's the deal. We need to be vigilant these upcoming days for our listeners. We need to be vigilant these next couple of days because the inauguration is coming up. There is word that supposedly something could potentially happen on the 17th. I believe the 17th is a Sunday. Like as soon as I heard, I'm like, let me check the calendar. But we need to be prepared, right? To listen, and to my brothers, you be prepared to defend yourself at all costs because you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I felt like we could have been in a position of civil war because that's where it was leading to. And I'm going to pray for Biden, right? Because somehow Biden's gonna have a difficult time in pulling everyone together, right? And excuse me, let me clarify. Biden's gonna have a very difficult time in getting those 70 some odd million people to understand differently. I think those who are sincerely ignorant will eventually get it, but those who are conscientiously stupid, meaning those who are purposely doing this because they know it's wrong but they feel it's right, those are the people that Biden's not going to be able to impact. I just don't know what percentage of people they are. So I want y'all to be vigilant, right, and stay vigilant, because I was here in San Diego and I didn't even know like riots were occurring in San Diego. There was clashing going on in San Diego, and I hadn't known, right? Because I don't have a lot of TV, but I caught it on the news the next day, and I'm just like, wow. But I want y'all to be careful, man.
A fact checker, not to interrupt you. I want to, if it's all right, I want to read a statement that the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation released after this happened. Okay,
Please.
And it stated, when Black people protest for our lives, we are all often met with the National Guard troops or police equipped assault rifles with shields and tear gas and battle helmets. When white people attempt a coup, to piggyback off my brother Donald, they are met by an underwhelming number of law enforcement personnel who act powerless to intervene, going so far as to pose for selfies with terrorists. I just want to leave that right there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm curious to see what happens on Inauguration Day.
You did hear though, right?
What's
I'm
that?
sorry, you did hear that the FBI have gone and they have warned several militant groups that have said that if Donald Trump is forcefully removed from office, that they're going to have an assault on every capital in the
country.
CONUS.
No,
Yep.
I did not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If he is removed before the 20th.
That's what. So the FBI. The FBI warned that's what the militants.
The FBI went to each of the militant groups and said, y'all better stand down. And the militant group said, if y'all remove him from office, this is what we're going to do. We're going to assault every capital. We're going to march on every capital. And they got guys dressed in fatigues, loaded to the kilt, what you were saying, ready to go to war.
Yeah.
And that's current. That's current news about each capital. They just
within
released
the last hour.
Yeah,
so good. That's what I'll be checking out. And look, I'll be looking at that news. That further tells me, fellas, be very vigilant, be very diligent about taking care of yourselves and your family members and your friends, right? And just stay cautious, man, because these next couple of weeks, I'm praying for the best, but I'm preparing for the worst. Is what I'm doing.
Virtual. They should do a virtual inauguration, broadcast it in an undisclosed location. They should not be out on the mall. It should not be in front of the Capitol. We do not know. My concern is not about the people that has top-notch security.
Yep.
I'm talking about regular people, regular folks that look like you and me.
Yeah.
The regular working class.
So interesting. It's interesting you say that. I'll close with this. I opened up this conversation prior to us doing the recording. I opened up the conversation that I was in Costco this past weekend and I stopped through, and you all know that Crooner gave me a hard time about not running, right?
The
And this
siren.
time I was outside of Costco at the time, but this time I was inside Costco, and sure enough, the alarm went off again. And I saw a family of people running. They looked like they were laughing, right? And I looked at him like, why, what's going on? They were running. Then I saw more and more people running. I'm like, what's going on? He said, there's a guy with a knife and a gun. And I just dropped my card and took off. But I bring it up because, to your point, just the everyday environment, you never know how someone could react to what's going on politically and take that out in the community, and try to cause harm. So y'all be careful out there. For all of you watching us, please do take care of yourselves. And as always, if you like what's going on here, Biden Harris, if you like what's going on here on the My Brother's Video podcast, we ask y'all to subscribe and share. We love y'all, and we out.
Peace.
Peace.
My brothers, my brothers, my brothers, my brothers, my brothers. Video podcast.